The UK is not some dystopian hellscape. Let's get that out of the way. It's got great museums, decent pubs, genuinely beautiful countryside, and a culture that's influenced the entire planet. But here's the thing, a growing number of people who actually live there, they're leaving. And the ones who left? A lot of them aren't coming back. So what's going on? Let's actually talk about it. Not in a tabloid way, not in a Britain is broken Twitter thread way. Just straight, here's what the data says, here's what's happening on the ground, and here's why people are packing their bags. Chapter 1. Housing pressure. A very pressing issue that affects the lives of countless Britons is the question of affordable housing. While many still dream about owning their own home someday, it is simply becoming increasingly difficult to do so. To illustrate just how bad things are right now, consider the following. In London, the average price of a single residential property is around £500,000, while the average salary is in the neighborhood of £35,000. Obviously, this is something that cannot be easily fixed, regardless of how hard people try. It is not a matter of living a modest lifestyle anymore, since the imbalance between the prices and wages is too pronounced. Moreover, it is a problem that has existed for decades now, meaning that it is quite difficult to change things. Outside of London, the situation is somewhat similar. The prices of properties have risen much faster than wages for years, meaning that even saving enough money to become eligible for mortgages is difficult. Renting is not exactly much better either. In the capital city alone, the average rent reaches £2,600 per month without taking into account utility bills or other additional expenses. The end result of all this is that the issue of housing divides society in a completely new way. It does not matter anymore whether people earn more or less money. The deciding factor is whether they have any help from their relatives who own properties or not. As stated already, the root cause of the problem is the imbalance between supply and demand. Simply put, the United Kingdom does not build enough homes. Most years, this figure is somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 to 220,000 homes, which is not enough to satisfy all the needs of citizens. Chapter 2. Healthcare strain. The existence of the National Health Service is something that many Britons are rightly proud of. It is the very embodiment of the principle of providing healthcare services at absolutely no cost. But in reality, the system is facing considerable problems that force people to reconsider this belief. According to the latest statistics, millions of patients are currently waiting for their treatments at NHS clinics. Some of them are waiting more than a year for operations or consultations that can greatly improve their well-being. Not only are emergency departments struggling to meet the demands, but the time limits are often breached. The point is not that doctors and other professionals working in these clinics are slacking off. On the contrary, their efforts are impressive, but there are too many patients and not enough resources to accommodate them. Years of underfunding combined with an aging population and the after effects of the pandemic made matters worse. In the end, the result is that people start feeling the burden. They either spend months or years waiting for their turn in public facilities, or they go and pay the money for private hospitals. Chapter 3. Wages and career opportunities. Another area in which Britain has fallen behind compared to other countries is salary growth. Over the last decade and some, wage growth in the UK has been rather poor, while inflation was gradually increasing prices and costs. Essentially, people stopped earning more, while everything else started getting expensive, leaving everyone poorer. Moreover, it should be pointed out that in certain areas of expertise, people can earn considerably more in other countries than in the UK. Take, for instance, software engineers who, after moving abroad, can multiply their income. Of course, this refers to industries such as medicine, finance, engineering, and so on. All of this causes a serious brain drain effect, since talented professionals receive education in British institutions, but then leave the country and work in the USA, Australia, and elsewhere. The reason for such tendencies lies in the fact that those countries actively attract specialists, offering them higher wages and better conditions. Finally, it should be noted that once professionals relocate, there is no reason for them to come back to Britain, since the difference in their quality of life and finances is substantial. Chapter 4. Climate and Everyday Life. Of course, while the problem described above is certainly more severe, Climate can affect the mood of the population, even if it is less serious. In comparison with other countries, Britain does not see the sun as often as one would expect. Indeed, especially in autumn and winter, the days seem to be rather gloomy and dark, thus having an impact on the well-being of the citizens. Furthermore, this factor is exacerbated when combined with financial troubles, stressful jobs, and other similar problems that affect people's lives. And indeed, there is a whole condition known as seasonal affective disorder, which describes just this phenomenon. That is why the destination countries with more sunshine, such as Spain, Portugal, or Australia, become so attractive to those who contemplate relocating. Chapter 5: Political and Social Climate. Finally, another serious aspect of everyday life in the UK that forces people to leave is the deteriorated political situation. It is characterized by frequent changes in government, heated discussions about the future direction of the country, various scandals, and, in the end, the feeling of alienation. For example, the Brexit vote and the entire process leading up to it affected people's views on the current state of the country dramatically. Regardless of whether a person is a supporter or an opponent of leaving Europe, the atmosphere at the time was anything but positive. Moreover, this event introduced significant changes in terms of travel, trade, and employment. Consequently, many people have started asking themselves whether it might be better to start anew somewhere else. Naturally, in light of all other problems discussed earlier, the decision became more obvious. Chapter 6: Where People Are Going. When deciding to move away from their native country, people usually have a number of options at their disposal. First and foremost, professionals in the field such as IT, finance, and engineering find the opportunity to work in countries of the Gulf with tax breaks and high wages. Secondly, countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada provide decent conditions in terms of salaries, climate, and quality of life. Finally, it is possible to move south to Spain or Portugal, where everything is cheaper and the weather better. While the United Kingdom certainly has some advantages, they are slowly being eroded due to problems in various spheres. At least in comparison with some other developed countries, the problems described above are quite serious. However, they can be solved through proper actions. At the moment, the UK has many problems that cannot be ignored anymore. If nothing is done, they might get even worse, causing more people to leave. While the United Kingdom certainly has some advantages, they are slowly being eroded due to problems in various spheres. At least in comparison with some other developed countries, the problems described above are quite serious. However, they can be solved through proper actions. At the moment, the UK has many problems that cannot be ignored anymore. If nothing is done, they might get even worse, causing more people to leave.